here with another episode of Guided Truth.
Back again.
Oh man, you already know what time it is. To my left is Guyland. Guyland, how you doing?
I'm you know what? I'm doing good today.
Yeah, you doing good?
Yeah.
Man, you got a phrase, man. You're supposed to say the phrase. It's like you just not gonna say the phrase no more, huh?
I'm always highly favored and blessed.
All right, man. I'm blessed and highly favored. That's it. All right. He's like, I'm not saying it. Man, we got a really special episode today because we're going to get into your testimony, which I think is pretty fascinating for people that don't know you. They'll get a little glimpse into who you are, what your values are, and kind of what made you the person you are today. So I'm kind of excited to hear about that.
It's been a long road. Well, I figure it's time to give at least my testimony on the later half of my journey. So yeah.
All right. So we're going to get into it. And you had a Bible verse today to kind of set the tone here.
Ooh,
which is
wow.
Can't read that.
I can figure it out. So
it's John 3:11, using the New Living Translation.
It says, what does it say? I assure you, we tell you what we know and what we have seen, and yet you won't believe our testimony.
All right. So unpack that one really quick for us before you start giving us your testimony. Why this verse?
Well, because everybody, so my testimony is what I do and what I've seen, but I know I've told my story to a few people, and they may have believed it, but it was very difficult. It was like, man, we just can't believe all these things that you've had to deal with. And it was like, oh, you should write a book. So I might actually do that too down the line, just to get it all out.
And you don't have to do a whole big book all in one time. You can do like memoirs and just release a little bit at a time so you get it out. Because sometimes it's like, man, I should write this book, but I got so much, and then you never get started or it never gets finished or published. Just, do little chunks and put it out as a memoir, and then at the end, put it all together and release it as one big book.
I need to get it all out. I just need time off from work. Yeah, but I need to get it all out at one time. And it'll be looking back on it now, it'll be funny, a lot of laughs, but yeah, going through it was a totally different guy.
Well, let's get into your testimony. And I think, having a conversation a little bit beforehand, I think the best way to unpack this is to kind of give three goals that people can have in the back of their head while they're listening to your testimony. So I'm just flashing them on the screen. We talked about talking about them at the end, but I think just putting them in there while they're listening, they got that cue, right?
Okay.
So one is have goals and move toward them. So keep that in your mind while you're listening to Guyland's testimony. Another one is you don't have to compromise your values. And you're definitely going to hear about that in his struggles. And since I, a good portion of the story, man, that can be very difficult to do. And then the other one we're going to touch on, or he's going to touch on his testimony, is finding someone to build with and how important that is. So just keep those three things in mind. I'll even flash them up on the screen from time to time while he's talking. But let me pass it on to you, and let's get into your testimony.
All right, so I guess we started back at the beginning of my military career. Wow. So we're going back to the 1900s.
Before there was the Navy, huh? You started the Navy.
Well, so 1999.
All right.
When I
what
first
were
went
you?
in.
What'd you go in as?
So originally, I went in as it was a preparatory school called JOBS, and it stood for job-oriented basic skills.
Okay.
So I scored a 73 on the ASVAB, which is not bad, but considering I like slept through like 2 subjects,
Wow.
I was like, man, if I didn't take a nap, I'd have been good.
You might have tested into being a nuke, huh?
Well, so I took the nuke test.
Mm-hmm.
They was like, oh, you scored a 73? Man, they was like, you missed. So they was like, you want to take the nuke test? I was like, yeah, all right, whatever. So I scored a 66 on the nuke test.
Oh, okay.
So I wouldn't, I didn't do bad, but
you're not really trying and prepping yourself. So tell me this: why did you why the Navy?
I was going to junior college, and I just ran out of money, and I didn't want to be a burden on my parents.
Okay.
So I did a year and a half, and then basketball didn't work out. Actually, I didn't even. I tried out, and I didn't make the team that particular my first year because they were going into like a rebuilding season.
Mm-hmm.
So they had got rid of all the, I don't want to say all the thugs, but all the people who wasn't really focused on being a student athlete.
Gotcha.
They got rid of all of them except I think one. He was from the previous year, and he was the only one that survived that made the cut. So they brought a coach down from Cal State San Bernardino.
Oh, okay.
And brought him to San Bernardino Valley. And when he came, it was, man, the workouts were on what I was used to for like just running. The conditioning was ridiculous. And then he sat me down in his office. He was like, so what position did you play? And I was like, 4 and 5. So like basically forward and center. And he chuckled. He said, not at this level. he said,
so you too small.
He said, how much you weigh? And I was like 185. He was like, no. So he brought so he did some recruiting. He brought one, I think it might have been one guy from Cal State he brought down with him. And I nicknamed him Lungs of Steel because he could just run, and it seemed like he never got tired.
Wow.
He was a beast. But he brought a 7-footer.
And now you're 6'3", right?
Yeah, I was 6'3".
All right. So at this level, you're a guard. You got guard
I'm
height,
a shooting guard, shooting guard, or the 2 or the 3. Small forward. So he brought, like, man, I think the kid might have been 5. I don't even think he was 5'5". He brought a small guard and who could shoot threes. And it just didn't work out. And I probably could have had an opportunity. The track coach asked me to come out, and the football coach asked me to come out just because I was tall. And it was like, man, we'll beef you up, man. Come on out, we'll beef you up. And I was like, nah, because I never played organized football with the pads.
Gotcha.
I mean, I was okay, but I never played with pads, and I was just like, nah, I won't make it. So you
learned a couple lessons there playing ball.
Yeah.
But you did a year and a half.
I did a year and a half, and then
went military. So you do the jobs program.
Yeah, I got through that. Then I was going to be a ET.
Okay.
And I went through some school. I don't even think that school, it doesn't even exist anymore. It used to be called Tech Corps. Now it's something else now. I think it might be B something for like basic, or it might be so it used to be advanced electronics and computer field.
Gotcha.
But now I don't know what it is now, but I didn't make it through that school. But having that year and a half of college, the lieutenant said, look, normally I would send people who do, I would send them to the fleet as a deck seaman.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh man, I'm done. I ain't gonna make it. And he said, well, I'm looking through your record, and I see you have some college here. And since you have some college, I'm gonna let you reclassify. He said, so what do you want to do? And I said, I want to be IT. And he said, because right at that time, the previous rate, so there was no IT at first. It was data processors and radio men. And I said, I'll be a radio man. I'll be an RM. And he said, all right, sign my paperwork, took it. And, I had to stay there for like maybe a couple more weeks to wait for another class to come through. And then while I was going to RM, when I got there, it had already converted from RAT.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So
you going through changes.
Oh yeah,
not only just for your basketball career, but you go to the military and it's already changes.
Oh yeah, already. But that's what I really wanted to do, was be an IT, because I looked it up in the Navy Times one day during lunch. And I'm like, man, they do rate mergers. And I said, oh, they got the rate I really want. I said, why? So as luck would have it, I eventually find my way to where I wanted to go.
Okay.
So
how old were you?
I think at that time I had been, so before I left Chicago, I had spent the whole year there. So I could have been 22.
Okay.
So I went to I started off, I was 21 when I left for the Navy. So I might have been 22 at that point.
So 21, you leave the Navy and you join because your money ran out at the junior college and you wanted to be a burden on your parents. Yeah. Why not go?
Oh, and I couldn't find a part-time job.
Got you. Okay.
So I wanted to go to school and try to play sports, but all the jobs that were hiring, they wanted 40 plus hours.
Oh, really? Yeah. But what kind of jobs were you looking for? Because you could have worked at McDonald's.
So at that point, anything.
Oh, really?
So people were hiring, but they was like, look,
but they want full time.
Yeah, they were like, we need you. We just need 40 plus. And I was like, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get a part-time gig.
Why didn't you sell drugs?
So that never crossed my mind.
But I mean, it's an option.
It is an
for
option,
so many people,
but
right?
That just wasn't on my mind to do that.
So. Oh, I'm glad.
So all right. So at so when I joined the Navy, even though I was 21, never had touched any alcohol.
Whoa.
Yeah. So actually, I take my first drink. I come home and I have my first drink with my dad.
Okay.
It's like a shot of Jack Daniels or whatever.
Okay. Was your dad military or your mom?
Yeah, my dad was prior Army.
Okay. Just wondering, because a lot of times people go in the military.
Oh.
There's some kind of history.
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Continue.
But yeah, I had never taken a drink, but I had started to drink socially.
Okay.
In school or whatever. And
what was your first drink with your dad?
The Jack Daniels.
The Jack Daniels. Okay.
Yeah, so,
straight?
Yeah, maybe a little ice, but it was just a shot. Yeah.
That's a cool memory.
Yeah. But I wasn't in my heart. Yeah, I'm still not really a drinker. I'll drink social. So like now, on special occasions or whatever. But yeah, I'm not really a drinker. That's just.
Well, just as a side note, did you go to prom?
No.
Did you go to any dances, Tolos? I take it you had girlfriends in high school. You were a basketball player.
I had girlfriends, but I did not go to dances.
Okay. Why didn't you drink?
I'm not a dancer.
Why didn't you drink or smoke weed in high school?
Athlete.
Okay. So your body was a temple. You weren't
at that point, body.
Okay.
And I had some help too. So any of my brother's friends, woe to the one that tried to give me something. Because he tell him up front, don't give my brother no alcohol or don't try to give him no weed. If you do.
And so what was it in you that made you not want to? Because a lot of times if you hear no, especially for you,
because we were focused on basketball.
You were really focused. Okay.
Yeah, it was.
You were gym rat, and that was your
working out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So back then, basketball and girls, but
okay.
In reality, I shouldn't have even been dealing with girls.
Mm-hmm.
I should have just focused on ball and got what I needed done. But again, making them bad choices. But I mean, you live when you learn, even through the bad choices. But so once I get out of, I graduate from school. I'm a IT SN at that point. So I'm an E3.
Okay.
Go to my first ship. And that was the USS Nimitz.
Oh, you're on the Nimitz, huh?
Yeah. So this was the first time I was on the Nimitz. So and things are going okay. Chain of command ain't too bad. It's actually, when I first get there, it's actually pretty good.
Okay.
And it's ran how it should be. So like your division officer, you don't see him.
Mm-hmm.
I seen him once when I checked in, and that was it. Chief, you didn't see him. The LPO, you must with the LPO every morning, and he put out what he gonna put out. Then your works in the suit will say, okay, look, this is what we're doing today, and everybody scatter and do your work. And that's how it's supposed to be. So you're really not even supposed to see your upper chain of command like at all, unless you just happen to see them through in passing.
All right. Yeah. And so for civilians, basically, you're just naming off different levels of supervisors. That you have. Okay.
Yeah. So finally made rank after the second attempt because we had to take. So back then, you had to take a test to make E4. Okay. Now, you no longer had to take a test. It's just E4. You do your time. It's based on your time and your evals now. So I took the test twice, and I finally made E4.
Now, why didn't you make it the first time?
I was mess cranking, and so I couldn't study.
Now, what does that mean?
Oh, when you mess cranking, you cooking. So you're either serving food in the galley. So you're either serving food in the kitchen, or you're cleaning up dishes in the sink, and you're just keeping the mess decks clean for everybody.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it's like you're TAD for about 3 to 6 months. So with that, so normally it's 3 months. If they have a replacement, then you can swap out. But if they don't have a replacement, then you got to do another 3 months.
Gotcha. All right. So that's just a temporary assignment.
Yeah, it's temporary
collateral
assignment
to what you're already doing.
So everybody does it unless you're like a favorite. If you're a favorite, I didn't know a couple people that.
So you were blessed, but you were not highly favored back then?
Not back then. It was like, oh, we need you to go ahead and mess crank. So I did that, and then I made E5 out of that, like coming out, like matter of fact, right when E4 while I was mess cranking, and then I thought that was gonna get me out. Nope, I still do the rest of my time. And then 6 months after I put on E4, I was up for like the next test. And I'm like, oh man, I ain't ready. I ain't even study. It's already here.
Oh man.
And I literally made the cutoff. So there's a number, like a final multiple that you need to have, and then that's like the cutoff line. So if the cutoff is like 79.5, like I was the cutoff. And so I'd be like barely made E5, but I made it. And so that was at like my 2-year mark. I made E5. And then.
So what was your plans at 2 years in? Were you career minded, or were you just going to do?
So my plan originally was to originally was to do the 6 years and as an ET and then get out. get my degree and get out. And that's one thing I did not ever do. I never did get my degree.
Now, what happened? Why?
So on the boat, they used to have teachers that would come on the boat and teach classes. But
used to be my job.
I had those classes already. So for like the major I wanted, they didn't have those classes available.
Got you.
So I had to just like, well, you know what? I'll keep it pushing. So I had a little struggle with my supervisor from the time, I guess, from the time I said that I was going to be married, they didn't believe me.
Okay.
So I was late to my own wedding.
How were you almost late to your own wedding?
So I was supposed to get off early because he said, all right, well, look. So the captain gave us like 72-hour layup, which is like 3 days off. And so it's including the weekend. And then he turned around and said, look, you know what? You get this day off too. So it became a 96. And I was like, look, hey, I said, because I asked him at first, I said, look, I need Friday off because I'm getting married. Nobody really said nothing. He said, well, he said, okay, don't worry about it. We'll take care of you.
Man, no congratulations. We're excited for you. He's like, well, all right, we'll take care of it.
So that Friday come around and I ended up working later than I'm supposed to be working. And I'm like, hey, when am I getting off work? Following week come around. Hey, he's like, Charles, what's up with your hand? And then I turned around and said, I told you I was getting married. And it was so disappointing and just it just made me real angry. It's like, I told you that I was getting married. So little did I know, I was supposed to give a 30-day notice.
Oh, wow.
Because my wife was on the same ship. And that's not supposed to be a thing. Her chain of command gave her the day off. Like, all right. But my chain of command, like, nope, didn't care. So normally you're supposed to go to captain's mast and explain to the captain why. But since nobody, like everybody knew I was getting married, and my chain of command didn't act accordingly, nothing happened.
Now
they still had to choose which one of us was getting off the ship.
Gotcha. I was about to say, now that you're married,
they still had to choose.
Someone got to go, right?
Yeah. So Alicia, she ended up getting off the ship. But at that time, she ended up getting off the ship. Even though my chain of command said I was more valuable, I don't know. I don't think so. And I thought I should have been the one to leave since I had already did the most time. But, you know, it's all good. So,
well, let me ask you this. Why get married? Because if you didn't get married, you could have stayed in the same command. As long as you were just dating, why get married and separate yourself?
So Junior was on his way.
Oh, okay. The plot thickens.
Yeah. So when Junior came, my supervisor, she asked to hold him. And then, because we had the same duty day together. And Alicia came and brought me some food or whatever. And she brought Junior with her. And, you know, when she held him, it's like she just like changed to a wholly different person after that. Like he like melted the anger or something changed. And she talked to me differently after that.
Okay. So she was angry?
Supervisor.
Your supervisor was angry?
No, she was just like.
So who was angry?
It was the supervisor. No, not at us getting married. She was just angry. Just.
But once she saw you with the baby, she softened up.
Yeah. At least towards me.
Got you.
And I don't know, you know, I hope she's doing better. If you know, yeah, I hope everything work out for her, and wish nothing but the best for people. So
how was that for you? You get married, your partner, you got Junior, they're off the ship. You still have to go on Westpac, right? You still have to deploy.
No, so that was the end. So I literally got off the boat right before they went. So it was me checking off the boat was bad.
Okay.
So to the point to where the day they were like about to set sail, I was still trying to get my stuff off the boat.
Oh. Okay.
So it is, you know, when you can feel when people really just don't care, or they just feel like, well, you know, hey, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was like no, because I didn't get that. I told you I didn't get my PQS. I didn't get that service warfare pen at that time. So, yeah, they let it be known how they like that. I probably pissed some people off by not getting it. And at that point in time, I found out later that I didn't have to get the bad eval.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that didn't come into effect till later. That it was like a requirement. Like, you don't get this pen and you get a bad eval. So, you know, I lived and learned. So after that, we took orders to Okinawa, Japan.
Okay.
Was
that your first choice?
So we only had two choices.
Okay.
Two choices. It was either Hawaii, and they said our commands were on opposite ends of the island. And I was like, nope. Because at this point in time, my daughter's on the way.
Gotcha. Hey, you don't waste any time, huh?
Yeah, they Irish twins. So it was there, either Hawaii or Japan, Okinawa, Japan. Okinawa, Japan, our commands was right around the corner from each other. And we had already been to Hawaii for a few times. I was like, man, it's crazy expensive. I just didn't want to go to Hawaii. I was like, man, let's go see. We already seen Hawaii. It's expensive. And then the commands are far apart. We ain't going. I was trying not to make it to where it would be difficult to, you know, be with a family, but man, I regret going to Okinawa.
Really?
The people, so like the food is good. The people are friendly. It's the commands we chose were to be desired.
Gotcha.
Like my command, the first 18 months, oh, it was gravy. It was my first time at my first shore duty, but it was a small command. And it was like maybe 20, 26 of us. And it was nice. I was like, oh wow, you know, close knit, so cool. My wife's command, originally, her supervisor told me that he was like, is your last name Charles? I said, yeah. He said, oh, so your wife's coming here, right? And I said, yeah. And he was like, oh, thank you. He was like, she's gonna be my right hand. And I'm like, okay. I said, she just looking for a clean slate, want to just fresh start, and hoping, you know. I said, all right. Now I said, if you said, because I said, I'm gonna tell her what you said. So this is your chance now. If you ain't gonna be a man of your word, don't say it.
Now, is this where she got her plank?
Yeah. Okay. Not when she first got there. So while she was there, they changed the command. So it went from being what is it? CFAO, and I forget what that is, like conflict activities Okinawa, to Navy Munitions Command Japan or Asia. And that's when she became a plank owner.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it was just, man, it was bad. So
you're in Okinawa. And for everyone, we're already 30 minutes in.
Yeah, we're gonna be a while.
Guyland is giving his testimony. And just to remind people, I want you to be listening out for these 3 things, right? So having goals and moving toward them. Also, you don't have to compromise your values. And then thirdly, find someone to build with. And so definitely I'm seeing you found someone to build with. For sure.
Yeah. Because when we got married, it was she was the only one to when I got promoted. She was there. When I re-enlisted, she was there. So there's a song, I forget what it is, but they talk about I think the woman being like your cheerleader or something like that. I forget what it was, but when I first heard it, that's what came to my mind. She's always been the one to, no matter how bad it got, that she was at least hoping for the best for us. So, yeah, so we got to Japan and Okinawa, and it was not, she made second. She picked up E5 there. Man, like she was like 1 out of 3, I think, Navy wide, like in the whole Navy out of to make TM2.
Really?
Yeah. So
nice.
Yeah, so cause she spent a lot of nights reading manuals and just like I'll be like, man, I was like, you ain't going to bed? You ain't going to sleep? Nope. She'd be up studying. I'm like, all right, well, good night. I'll turn over and go to sleep. But she put a lot of time and effort into studying because she said nobody's going to teach her.
So tell me, was this the plan and your goal? Like, when did you meet your wife? You know, how long did it take for y'all to get married? And then when you had the kids back to back,
okay,
was all this part of your goals?
So we met when I was TAD to security.
Okay.
And I checked out my weapon I had to check out was a shotgun, and she was the person I checked it out from. And so she was like, so are we going out there? And I was like, huh? I was like, all right. So the first date was yeah, I had some bad eating and drinking habits. And not like drinking alcohol. So we each had like a slushie and nachos. I ate mine, drank all my slushie, and she was like, oh, well, you can have some of mine. And I drank all hers too.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it was bad. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I can get you another one. And she said, no, that's okay. But she was like, man, I can't believe you drink all the slushie. Yeah, I didn't think it was gonna be a second date after that,
but she shot her shot though.
Yeah,
like, hey, when we going?
Yeah. So she knew what she wanted, because she had did. I think she said she did a year and some change in college too. So she had already had previous college, and I think it was the fact that she knew what she was looking for was easier. And I think if women know what they want and can be honest with themselves and realistic, because at that point in the game, yeah, we both were just I was a new E5, she was an E4. Yeah, so neither one of us had no credit at the time. So yeah, we started from scratch.
Okay.
Started from scratch.
So one of your goals is the message is fun to build with. You said she knew what she wanted. Did you know what you wanted?
Oh yeah, I was looking.
What were you looking for?
So I was looking for somebody to be with.
Okay.
I was looking for somebody to be with, but the girls that I was meeting wasn't at that point yet. So they were either still wanting to do what they wanted to do or whatever, and that's fine. But or they just wasn't interested in me.
Okay.
So, you know, either or, it's all good. But it's refreshing when you meet somebody and so when they shoot their shot, you know they're interested. So you know it's no games.
Right.
And so that's what got my attention. So
were you following your Christian faith time?
No.
Were you going?
No.
Okay.
No. So at that time, while we first dated, we started we went to church in San Diego a few times.
Whose idea was that?
It was hers.
Okay. Why'd you go?
I didn't have a problem with going.
Okay.
I just never made the effort to say, you know what, a conscious decision to say, you know what, this is how I'm gonna start rolling. I'm gonna go to church, and yeah, I didn't do all that. And
did you grow up in the church?
I should have. I started off in private school.
Okay.
So I
Catholic school?
No,
private school? No. Okay.
No. Mount Calvary was a Christian school. Or no, I think it might have been a Lutheran school.
So I mean, did your folks go to church on Sundays and take you to church?
Sometimes. Like my mom, she took us to church for a while.
Okay.
So I was like, man, baptized around 10 years old the first time.
Were you going to church regularly on during high school and college?
No.
No?
No. So probably a lot of them hard knocks probably, but so we in Okinawa, she found she had met one of her friends or whatever and said, oh, well, we go to this church over here. So we started going to church out there. And then yeah, that place was, so my command went from good to bad. And then her command was just yeah, you ask her, she'd probably say it was bad the whole time. But so when she put on E5 and it was time to go, she was like, I'm getting out. So, you know, I felt bad because in my head, the plan was to both of us do 20 years and retire. And I apologize for even making her re-enlist the first time because she had to re-enlist to go out to Okinawa to take the orders. Yeah.
So she didn't really want to do that.
Not really.
So talk about that, because that sounds like a conflict, right? So
it is. It was.
But you talked her into it.
Yeah, because I said it'd be easier if we
join.
both do 20 years. Then because I was looking at the end game already. I was always like, man, if we retire,
I can see it. Yeah.
Woo, we ain't got to work. We can chill. And we had already did some traveling together, so I felt like, man, if we both retire and the kids are gone, then we can start traveling again. But it ended up being more stress on her to stay in. So, yeah, I apologize to her for. I should have just said, you know what?
You weren't angry that she went away from the plan?
Why would I be angry if because in the military, if it ain't for you, it is not for you.
Got you, but you got a plan. You got these goals, right? You got these ideas.
So goals have to be adaptable.
Okay, all right.
Goals have to be adaptable. So like I didn't get my college degree, but I do pretty good without one. But yeah, we left Okinawa, and I got to that's how we got to Washington.
Okay, so you came stateside.
We came stateside, and I had orders to Everett.
Okay.
On the Lincoln.
The stinking Lincoln.
Yes, sir. And man, that was another doozy. It was, when it started out, it was okay. But you start seeing when small little cliques or small groups, and I guess that's normal, but I just didn't like, because when I first got there, I was a senior E5, and everybody was looking at me like I'm gonna fix all the problems in the shop. I'm like, hey, I'm just an E5. We got an E6 over here who can that's his job. He the LPO. And yeah, that it didn't work out that way. But I did get man, I had got a lot of schools out of that command. To like 4 or 5 schools.
Why were you so focused on getting these schools done?
No, it was just because I was supposed to take over the work center soup.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So the division officer was saying, look, you're gonna be here, so we're gonna need you to run all these systems or whatever. And then after he was getting ready to leave, I got swapped to go into another work center instead. So like all those schools I had was for nothing. Yeah. So I mean, I learned the information, so that was cool. But yeah. So I left the Lincoln and went to the Naval Hospital, and that was okay, I guess. But yeah, the main supervisor had never been. I mean, he was a decent guy, I guess, but he didn't understand military people, because he was, and
he's a civilian.
He was a civilian.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But and that doesn't matter, right? If you worked around military long enough, you should understand and try to. You got civilians and you got military,
Well, I tell you, being on the civilian side, being a contractor, is you'd have, contractors, you'd have GS, and then you'd have, the military folks.
Yeah.
And, everyone's got their own idiosyncrasies.
Yep.
And sometimes like, oh man, these Navy folks. But the worst to me were the GS,
Yeah, well,
they just seem to have a chip on their shoulder because they weren't Navy, or at least they weren't active. You know what I mean?
But the GS, I mean, because a lot of the GSs were prior military.
A lot of them, but not all of them.
Not all of them. Not all of them. But it's like, look, why are you mad? Look who paying your paycheck.
I don't think they look at it
they
like
don't.
that.
They don't. They don't.
So, your third goal is, you're not having to compromise your values, and you've had a lot of stress and strife during your military career. Talk about that and how you overcame, how you navigated that, before you kind of found the Lord, and then, finding the Lord, and how it was different.
It was difficult. So in Okinawa, everybody knew what the situation was, but nobody wanted to really voice it. So people knew what I was dealing with, but they was just like, well, he can deal with it. Or I don't know, because nobody said nothing. But they did know that the person in charge, they know he didn't like me. And so I went and talked to the EO, who was a senior chief, and he was like, well, he said, well, we can write up a complaint, but he said, if you don't have somebody there who will be a witness to it, he says, nothing's going to really happen.
Oh, man.
So I said, all right. And so I just sucked it up.
And so no one came to you and said, hey, man, you getting done dirty. I'll write this.
Well, they said, hey, man, we know you're getting done dirty, but nobody else wanted to step up and put their career on the line, because that's what it would have been doing. You'd been putting.
How'd that make you feel? I mean, this is supposed to be a
isolated,
team, right?
isolated, but I mean, it let me know, yeah, team. I mean, we're a team in the uniform, but yeah, when it comes down to the nitty gritty, you start seeing where you really stand.
So how'd you navigate it? Because a lot of times, you know, if we're in the barbershop or just talking amongst ourselves, you know, we'll say things like, "Man, it couldn't be me. And if that was me, I'd have woo-de-woo. This is what would have happened." Why didn't you lose yourself and go off on them?
My wife and kids.
Okay.
I refuse to let anybody do something to where they would take away money as punishment. One, I couldn't afford it. And yeah, it was too much to lose. So I just tucked it inside. And
what does that mean? Explain tucking it inside.
You just hold it in and don't. And so it was really at that place, it was nobody to really vent to.
Got you.
So I had to literally, there was nobody to vent to after my chief left.
Okay.
So when my chief left, it was really, because at first it was me and him, so it was good. Because I got somebody there with me, and he know, because he see it and he feel it. So at first we in the trenches together. And then he was, but as a chief, he was also the buffer.
Got you.
So I didn't feel it as much, but he said before he left, he said, "Look, just keep your nose clean till you leave. I know it's gonna be hard, but just don't give no reason."
So how long were you time he left from the time you were able to leave?
It was a little bit over a year.
It's a long time.
It is. So actually, so I tried to get orders to a pre-commissioning ship, which would have made me a plank owner. So I'm looking on the job listings website, and I'm like, bam, I done found one. And
trying to get up out of there.
Yeah. And so it was a pre-com, the Macon Islands. And I had to get special permission to leave the IT detailer to go to the special programs detailer. Well, little did I know. So I went and did all the moves, made phone calls, called people. And I had a friend from the Nimitz who was already on the Macon Islands. And they were like, "Yeah, man, you'll be good." He said, we could use the help.
Nice.
The special detailer knew my current commanding officer, and he used to work for my commanding officer, and basically they squashed it.
Ooh,
yeah. So, but it wasn't the detailer's fault. It was like the commanding officer. So what he did is he had the chief. He had the chief that was there do a financial, and I still think this is illegal what they did, but he had him basically do a financial readiness thing,
gotcha.
which is normal, and I was trying to explain to him, because he said my debt ratio was too high.
Oh, wow.
And I said, it is. I took a $1,000 pay cut to come here to support you.
And still won't let you go.
No, because it wasn't the chief's fault. I said, "Chief, I said, I already know who told you to do it."
Man.
But see, that's how high it went. Senior chief couldn't, nope, nobody wanted to say nothing. So it was.
So go into a little bit more. At this time, you're kind of going to church, but you haven't really found the Lord yet. So how are you dealing with this? Because that's a lot. At some point, it's like, you know what? Yeah,
so
I don't want to lose no money.
At this point, it's one of them bumpy. It's one of them bumpy times in the roller coaster too. So it it had gotten bad at that point.
So it's bad at work, at home?
That's what I mean. It's bad at
Oh,
home.
wow. So are you offloading at her at home?
No. It was just...
So you're still trying to hold it, but you got your own marital stuff. Life.
And so when that happened, and I told the, senior enlisted advisor, he's not a CMC, but he's like an E8. So he's sitting in that role, and he was supposed to be a Christian man, but I couldn't get no help from him with dealing with the commanding officer.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? That was another time I had to suck it up. I was like, man,
So what do you do? Like,
at that
point,
you
playing ball? Are you boxing? Are you?
I was on the all Navy Okinawa team.
Okay.
For basketball.
Did that help?
Like,
how did you get through it?
No, not really. So at this point, it's just whatever grace God can give me.
Like you take it in one day at a time.
Yeah. And because at this point, because I'm still not coming to God as I should. And that was just grace. Like, knucklehead, you need some grace right now because you doing stupid. And but other people saying I was going through it, like there was an airman, he seen how it was. It was just like the work just because like once we got to Washington, then everything different. So it kind of worked out because when we got to Everett, she got there first, and I had a month left to pack up the house and get everything ready. She met some babysitters, and that's how we found the next church.
Okay.
And so when I get there and I meet them, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And so started getting into church a little bit, like real good there. And I started.
What do you mean by getting into church? What does that mean?
So
you were a deacon?
No, not that. I mean, like starting to go to church all the time and start trying to apply what he's teaching.
Ah, got you. You're taking the word serious. You're reading the Bible.
Yeah. So I'm applying.
Trying to understand.
I'm not reading it as often as I was later on, but I'm applying what I hear at church.
Gotcha.
And I'm like, okay, let's see what he do. Okay, boom, boom, boom. And
where did you see the fruit of that?
It was
your
good.
Marriage or work?
Marriage.
What did you see? What changed?
It's like everything was like lighter. If I don't know how to explain it, because we were both going to church, and it's like you can tell when you're walking together, and then if you're walking together, there's a difference in that. So, it was better at home, and at work it was. So I met a chief who actually tried to look out for me. On the Lincoln, and I did. I did get my surface warfare pen then, but he made sure. He said, "Let me see your evals," and he said, "All right." Well, he said, "Oh, you?" He said, "Man, well, you good? We just need to get this pen." He said, "Don't worry, you ain't gonna leave here without that pen." And Chief Dietz, he said, he made it terrifying to walk around. So our shop was on the 03 level, and he made it terrifying. Like I did not want to. If I was walking and I would peek around the corner and I seen him, I would try to go the other way before he caught me.
Why?
Because he was asking me, all right, where your books? How much you got signed off? You ready for the test?
Oh, he's like, you gonna get this.
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. But see, he's seen what I needed was to just get the pen. So by hook or by crook, he kept his boot where it needed to be for me to get my pen. And so I was
So what made you do it? Because you wanted to not see him.
I was grateful for that.
For him pushing you.
Regardless. I didn't want to see him, but I always seen him. Matter of fact, he would always see me, is what it was.
So when you think back on that, can you see God putting him in your life and steering you to get you to where God wants you to be?
At least to overcome that obstacle that should have been overcame
already in the past
years ago. So so I knocked that out again, but I repeat that mistake again later on.
Really?
But we leave off of I leave off the Lincoln because Alicia she gets sick, so I leave off of there, and I'm supposed to not deploy, and I get to the Naval Hospital, and this first class he deploys, he comes back, and they're like, all right, well, we need to send somebody else. I'm like, well,
it's not gonna be me.
Who y'all gonna send? Because I'm not supposed to go.
Right.
But they called me to send. They called me to go. And I said, y'all telling me to leave, and y'all know my situation. So I tell Chief, I said, if anything happened to my family while I'm gone, and I left it like that.
About to lose it.
Well, I'm not gonna lose it, but we ain't gonna know what's gonna happen. There's gonna be some consequences. Because one, I'm not supposed to go anywhere. So at that point, I'm ready to try to get whoever sent me, everybody. Boom, 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 boom. Because they all should have went down.
Yeah.
If you know that a sailor is not supposed to go because he got issues, or his spouse is have special conditions where it's in the record,
right? And
the doctors say that the member isn't supposed to deploy, and that's what that means.
So did they deploy you?
Yeah, I went on the Mercy.
Really?
I wasn't supposed to go to the Mercy.
Wow.
Yeah, they sent me TAD to the Mercy.
Now, how long were you there for?
4 months. It was a 4-month deployment.
Okay.
Yeah. It wasn't terrible.
No, where was the Mercy?
So that was the Mercy was in San Diego.
So now you're leaving Washington State and you're down in California.
Yep.
Deep California because you're down in Sandal.
Yeah.
Wow. And probably hot about it.
It's hot, man.
I'm talking about pissed off. You hot about it. Like, why am I down here? I'm supposed to be home with my wife.
Yeah, I was upset initially, but I was more concerned for my wife than upset.
Did you know God more then, or what?
No.
Okay.
Because again, the stupidity was so because it's easy to do it when you have somebody to do it with.
Got you.
Because it takes more discipline to it. Like it's I'm on my own. Whoop, let me get in here and let's get it. And I didn't think to have that. I was too busy. Like I guess I was too busy whining because I did have. I don't know. I can't say it was whining.
No, you're probably whining. You probably called it right.
So the processes were incorrect, and I wasn't the only one to see it. And so when a first class or an E6 seen it and they voiced their opinion, they were told to stay in their pay grade.
Ooh.
But again, so that the Naval Hospital, they preach about those going down range. That's for the sailors going down range, they're supposed to be the highest highest thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when we go down range, we're like, hey, where the love? Where the support?
Right.
So people were calling the first class because she was the admin person. So she worried about getting people paid. Well, everybody wasn't getting paid right. Because now we're on the boat, we get sea pay and separation pay and all this stuff, and people wasn't getting paid right. So they're like, hey, I ain't getting my money. But you gonna blow other people off?
Yeah.
So some corpsmen I really like. If you're a corpsman and if you've never been on a ship or if you've never been deployed, then I'm not gonna say I don't like them. The hospital will train them to think that they're the first and foremost instead of, because medical, you're a support rate. You should be a support rate. But if you go to the hospital, everybody else is a support rate. So, yeah. So I get through that deployment.
So your TAD 4 months, San Diego.
Yep.
You're frustrated.
Oh, and so while I'm there, like on the way back, they had something called perform to serve. And normally you get 6 looks. Well, while I was gone, I had gotten 5 looks. And it was a second class yeoman had looked at my record and told me. He was like, hey, Charles, you got one more look. And I'm like, one more look? I just got approved for this before I got to the naval hospital. And he said, yeah, but it was like 3 months after I was at my last year mark. And that's when you're up to go in the pot again.
Gotcha.
And yeah, they just so my wife was upset because I told her, because I was upset. Look, this was going on. I know that, right? Maybe you can talk to the CMC or I said you can call the ombudsman, right? Because that's the ombudsman's job or whatever.
So she can talk on your behalf for your situation?
No. So spouse have a lot of power.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, spouses have a lot of power, but this particular ombudsman didn't know their job, maybe. So they're supposed to communicate with the CMC, XO, like with the triad, CO, XO, CMC. I think my wife may have scared her too much to where she reached out to my departmental master chief instead. And so, but in my mind, I'm thinking, you have a spouse highly upset who is also a veteran. If maybe this might not be the best job for you. I mean, but that's a hard look that should have been taken. If you can't deal with this person, then maybe you shouldn't be in that role. So nobody say nothing until I get back, and then they were like, "Oh, Master Chief want to talk to you," and I'm like, "All right," and he was like, "So, no, how's the family? Just." So your wife called the ombudsman. Why she call the ombudsman? I said, because nobody did their job. I said, I had 6 looks. I didn't even know 5 of them passed. Come to find out, he just, again, running into somebody who just didn't care. But I found out later his real story. But yeah, that was heart-wrenching. And then I went and found out the Navy came out with a message saying, "Oh, we kicked out 5,000 too many."
Oh, man.
We kicked out 5,000 too many. So they're asking people to come back in active duty, or if you're up for higher tenure like I was, to submit a waiver. So I'm like, all right, cool. I said, Chief, you see this message? He said, yeah, boom, boom, boom. I said, all right, well, can I submit it up? And he was like, well, go talk to Master Chief. I'm like, so again, even though I've been in a long time, I still don't know. I know some protocol, but not as much as I should have.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, ain't nobody really sat down and taught me how to maneuver. So I go talk to Master Chief, and he said, "Well, no, don't worry about it. You getting out." So
You getting out?
Yeah.
So he's not gonna push you forward.
Nah.
Well, couldn't Chief go to Master Chief on your behalf? Why he had to send
He
you?
could have, but for whatever reason, he didn't want to push it. So hey, again, looking at it now, everything happened for a reason. So,
well, but take me back. You're there. Do you?
Oh, I was hot. So I'm like job hunting. I'm going on USA Jobs. I'm looking for like jobs now. I'm like, man, I'm getting out when I should be staying in. Whew.
So are you as strong in your faith then?
Nope.
So you
so
keep saying grace.
So
So what is it that's keeping you from, hey, I'm getting out. I could just go off on y'all. My wife is sick.
Again.
She's upset.
Again. Wife and kids.
Mm-hmm.
So my responsibility to them is what kept me going.
Ooh, okay. I think I need to add that on there. It's responsibility.
Because if I didn't have a wife and children, my career probably would have went a lot differently. Meaning on how I would have
dishonorable discharge, general discharge.
And those are all possibilities because I probably would have ran more on my emotions. But having a wife and kids made me as angry as I was, it made me act accordingly. So
it's interesting how these things are kind of intertwined, right? And you can pull on these different things as you need them. The responsibility is keeping you there, but if you didn't put importance on having a wife, the responsibility wouldn't be there for you to pull on.
Exactly.
Right?
Yep.
And then having your wife, creates these goals and values, right? Because you have this value of responsibility, right? You have this goal. I'm gonna take care of me and my family. First and foremost, no matter what I got to go through, I could be dying inside, but I've got to do this. This is so important.
So that was also one of the things me and my brother we said when we were young. When my mom separated from my biological father, that was the deal, the agreement we made is that we would always be there for the kids.
Okay.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, all right, well, I'm gonna always take care of the family because that's just what we do.
Right. So another core value that you're not willing to compromise.
Yeah, it was like, well, I gotta, regardless. So I get in the reserves, and then I end up.
So they did end up putting you out.
Yeah, I ended up getting higher tenured.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm in the reserves, and the reserves was. It worked out being in the reserves because I got to. I got like not necessarily a fresh start, but my evals. I got totally different evals.
Gotcha.
So,
okay.
I was able to, and then when I got so getting into the reserves, I lost my paperwork got lost.
Oh man.
So I had to go through MEPS all over again. Yeah.
Man, you better find my paperwork.
And they were like, so I had gotten eye surgery while I was in, and I had to get a waiver for that.
Man.
Because I was like, he was like, oh, well, where'd you get this eye surgery? I said, when I was on active duty. What do you, it's in my record. And he was like, oh, well, you got to get a waiver for that. I'm like, are you serious?
I'm active now. I'm a reservist. Like, come on now.
But so that their goal is to filter out those who shouldn't be there.
Man.
So I do that, and then I'm going to school, and so I'm using some of my GI Bill. So Financially, we made it work.
Okay.
Because she was going to school and then I was going to school. And so that care of the kids couldn't tell the difference.
Gotcha. Okay.
But we would try to, I tried to be somewhat upfront, but like, hey, look, y'all can't just be asking for every little thing when y'all go to the store with mom, because, I'm not in the active military anymore. So I said, Dad is struggling when he leave the house.
Now, how does that make you feel? How did that make you feel back then? Knowing that you couldn't provide in the way that you wanted to, and it wasn't your fault that you had to get out.
I felt bad, but knowing that I still was able to make it work, it was a lot of stress, and I think that's probably when my hair went the grayest at that point, because it was rough. It was rough.
So when did you find God? I mean, really get into dedicating your life and.
All right, so I get recalled.
Okay.
Again, I didn't think I was up to be recalled yet. So as a reservist, you get recalled once every 5 years, or you can take a deployment.
Gotcha. Okay.
And if you go immediately into the reserves, you get deferred, meaning you get 2 years before you get put into the pot.
Gotcha.
Well, since they lost my paperwork, I literally got in at the just after the 1 year mark. So now I'm in the pot, not even knowing I'm in the pot.
But it's like whatever can happen to you happens to you. Wow.
Happens. So and I get recalled back, and it's like, man, where am I going? And so my orders say but it don't say where. And so I'm like, all right, well. So first, before I get recalled, I had a corpsman chief, and while I'm in the reserve, she's like, look, I need IT orders. She said, I got IT orders for 6 months on active duty. Do you want them? And I said, are you serious? And she said, yeah. And I said, yeah, I want them. So
now, were you here?
I'm still in Washington.
Okay. Were you still in Everett, or are you on this side?
No, we're on this side. So we only stayed in Everett 1 year.
Who was your corpsman?
That particular time? She's retired now. Ooh.
I'm like, is it Layla's grandma?
No, no.
Because she's a retired corpsman. She was at Naval Hospital.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Oh, man. No.
It was like, man, it's a small world.
This is at the North. So at the glass building. If you know what they call it. So we were there at the North. And she got me orders, and for those 6 months, and I was grateful.
You tell me offline what her name was.
I'm gonna have to know. I just have to remember.
Yeah, to remember.
My brain is, I remember some stuff, but so I'm bad. I'm bad with people's names, and people that know me, they were like, yeah, that Negro is bad with names. So I get the orders, and when I go, I end up going to Fort Bragg.
Okay.
And I stay there for a while.
No, it's a while.
A few months.
Okay.
So the overall tour is like 10 months, but
so you come up every now and then to see.
No.
You just out there the whole time.
We're in Fort Bragg for a while, then we deploy.
Gotcha.
And then after deployment's over, we come back. But I came back when my time was up, because you only have so many days, and they'd be like, all right, time for you to go. But while I was sitting there on watch, I was like, man, I'm gonna have to retire as an E5 in the reserves. And so I was like, well, figure I guess that's what I'm supposed to do. So got to figure out what I'm supposed to do.
All right, so you're saying God. So at this point is God.
When I start.
Is when you start.
I start. So
what was the catalyst
because
to get you to start?
I see research.
Research. What researching?
Things I had seen on TV, the news, and then
what about anything in Hawaii or Okinawa?
Nope.
Nothing that you saw abroad?
Nope.
No, okay.
And then it was the stuff that I was researching that I seen, and I was like, oh. So I would tell Alicia, hey, you might want to take a look at this. So we started shooting each other notes like, hey, if I send you something, just take a look at it. And then she was like, hey, if I send you just take a look at it. So we would do that back and forth. But when I deployed, we had the best internet.
Okay.
So I could literally like FaceTime her.
Oh wow.
And so like that was like the best communication on a deployment, because I could like literally see her and talk to her every day.
Gotcha.
Versus like on the boat.
Every day?
Yeah. On the boat, it's like,
well, you are IT, right? So
we IT. So that was so, but see, that Army captain made sure that we had a perk.
Okay.
And he made sure, I mean, even though so he was a runner, but he made sure, he was like, hey, this is what we have. I don't mind y'all using it all the time. Just make sure you out of sight when you're using it, because I don't want people, because we were like just the basic help desk, but people had to come through.
Oh, I see.
So as long as you stayed in the room, you were fine.
Because otherwise they'd be feeling some kind of way. Like, why they get to do it?
Yeah.
You lose it.
So
you start reading, you start doing research.
And so
forth.
the research kicked it in. After that, I made first class. Well, when I came back, so we took a test at Fort Bragg, and then I come back, and I think it's January, and then my old LS1 friend of mine, he said he took a picture and he said, congrats. He said, you made it. And yeah, I was ecstatic. Like I was shocked. He said, I said, when can I do orientation? He said, I'm at work now. You come in now.
On in.
I said, I'm on the way.
So at that point, had you committed to God in a deeper way?
All right, so while he's doing orientation, I tell him the whole story. First one to say, hey, you need to write a book. All right, so I get to the Nimitz again, and I'm on active duty now. And
how you feel about that? Going back to the Nimitz.
Oh, so bad. It was so bad. But that it being so bad is what set the table. This is what set the table. And then I had it just so happens because when I got there, like a few months after I got there, I was in the middle of deployment, came back, I get sent to security, and while I'm in security, this Y1 comes in. And he said, hey, what's going on, bro? And I'm like, hey, hey, you see the vest, man. We should be struggling. He was like, yeah, I feel you. And he went on in, but we started talking while I was on watch with this. But nobody had really like taught me how to be an E6 or nothing, but he took the time out to kind of mentor me. And so we started talking, and that's what kind of like really kicked it off, because he was because he had been doing like pastoral work. Even if as a yeoman, he would like help the pastor on his ship but he started when he was like young in the Navy. And so he already knew a lot of stuff already. And so I was like, well, hey, hey, I'm dealing with this. How do you do this? And he was like, look, he said, take a look at this guy. He has a lot of good stuff to say, but you can, of course you need the fact checking, but he said, so I've been fact checking him and he ain't said nothing wrong. So
now, do you want to say who that is, or is that for next time?
Oh, that's for next time.
Okay.
And
so you start checking them out.
I start checking them out, and we reading.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I'm looking at the guy, so Pastor Darby, as I'm watching the videos, and then I'm going back to one, and we like, oh, okay, cool. So we talking, and then when I'm off shift, I'm reading, and so that's what sparked the real like, boom, we got to crack it open. Mm-hmm. So Pastor Darby's the one that said, oh, well, he's the one that introduced the Apocrypha.
Okay,
and he brings the connection of the Bible. It references some of the books in the Apocrypha. So if the Bible is making reference to, then it's got to be something there. So I said, you know what? Well, let me see what he's talking about.
Investigate.
And so I'm cracking open the Apocrypha. So I got the Apocrypha and I got the Bible. And now I'm reading hard. Now I'm like, ooh. And as I'm finding out stuff, my eyes are being opened. And I'm like, man, this is what's really going on. And so.
Now, you sending this stuff to Alicia at the same time?
Yeah, because I told her, I said, hey, buy. So she had to, she sent me a copy of the Apocrypha. And I said, man, there's some stuff. I said, you might want to start reading or, cracking it open or whatever. And I started reading a lot, and I started talking different. And even though we had a group of Hebrew Israelites on board, but I was listening to what they were talking about, and I was like, man, that's I don't know, they should be doing that, but I let them, because again, they're together, they're in the group, they're peaceful. I'm like, but in my heart, I'm like, man, somebody need to tell them they ain't supposed to be. That's something that they shouldn't be trying to do again.
Right.
But yeah, when I started reading the Bible, but see, I was reading it. So we do 12-hour watches. And everybody used to look at me like, because they used to want to have like woke conversations, right? So, and I would tell them stuff I was reading, because I was reading the Bible, the Apocrypha, and I read Behold the Pale Horse. And
so you consuming everything you can get your hands on, basically.
Yeah. And so that's what, but see, I started looking up stuff like, what is so people want to say it's a conspiracy theory. Well, what's a conspiracy? So I looked up the definition for conspiracy. Conspiracy and theory shouldn't even be put together. Because a conspiracy is some people planned and strategized and did something which is fact. So why are you putting fact with theory? Anyway, that's another topic for something else later. But
so tell me this. So you're reading now. What changes? What opens up your belief that what you're reading is the gospel and making you more of a believer?
Just about, and everybody won't agree with me, but so like what Pastor Darby would say, he said, look, our situation, our way of thinking describes who we are biblically.
Okay.
So the Bible literally breaks down, not only did we go into slavery by ships, but it said nobody would buy them. And it said will be sold for bond men and bond women, and it's so sell it was basically saying that the people were going to be sold, and the boys and girls were going to be sold as like a harlot, and just yeah.
So it sounds like you're reading this, and now it's like it makes sense.
It's connecting historical dots for me, and so as I'm reading it, and I'm like, okay, I'll say I understand that part. Boom, and I set that aside. Now, work related, I'm like, okay, so one of the guys, he was like, you know what, IT1, he said, before I went to security, he said, take a look at the list and see who's all in security. And I said, wow, what's going on? He said, just you might want to take a look at that list. So I go and take a look at the list, and I was like, well, I don't know these people. He said, well, look, he said, everybody on that list is black. Now this is coming from a white guy.
Okay.
But he was a real brother. I mean, like, if I had to go in the combat, I wouldn't mind going with him.
Okay.
Yeah, because he's good IT, but he was just like,
he had your six.
Yeah. Yeah, and he was like the only one that brought it to my attention, and he did it in a good way to where everybody wouldn't know, but he said, look, you might want to go check that out. And when I looked at it, I was like, oh man. So fast forward a little bit, I'm having a conversation with the leadership in the back, and they say I'm not the first class that they thought I should be.
Oh man.
And I say, your predecessor did send every black male to security, so what do you expect? I said, nobody has taught me how to be in E6.
Wow.
So as the leadership, this is what you got. If you don't like what you got, then you got to weigh self first and see, how did I fail this sailor?
So now, is your relationship with God and this knowledge
at this point in the game? We good. Because I'm like, again, so I'm already because at this point I'm already learning how to because Pastor Darby, a few of his sermons teach you how to pray, and they teach you how to pray when you have spiritual warfare. So when you're dealing with like certain stuff, he teach you this how you just, and he go down the line and teach you how to pray for certain stuff. So I'm like, okay, man, that's making sense. And so I started off with just doing what he was doing, right, and kind of praying along with him. And I'm like, man, so like the generational curses. I'm like, oh man, I said I got so much curses I got to break. So I'm like, so I would go and we have like fan rooms, and I'll go in the fan room, and I'm like, well, can't nobody hear me, but it was me and God. I got work to do. Yeah, and I would spend like I would read for a part, because I was like, I was working at night, so how I did it is if I told the guys, I said, look, I had, man, my guys were real intelligent, smart. Only thing that they would do that kind of get me in trouble is like they would all like to go eat chow together.
Oh, gotcha.
But I would need somebody there to man the phone, to man the desk. But they all were good. And I think at this point they all out making good money.
So tell me this. Now you've kind of told your story. You didn't have God before. You're kind of going to church a little bit, but and you're trying to follow what you're hearing in the sermons. But now on the other side, you're not only going to church, but you're reading, right?
Yeah.
You're learning to pray. You're watching this other pastor. I mean, you're deep into it. How would you relate your experiences with conflict before and after the strengthening of your relationship with God?
So it was, it got so bad that, so I was supposed to re-enlist, and I submitted my paperwork, and I'm like, man. So I'm asking the person who's like in charge of it. I'm like, hey, have you seen my paperwork? Like, I'm like, sheesh. So you get 3 days. It's supposed to go up and down. And I'm like, hey, have you checked on my paperwork? And they were like, all right. And they were like, hey, it's like Devil got it. So I'm like, all right, let me go holler at Devil. Devil was basically waiting on me to come back there and talk to her about my realistic paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a discussion and we didn't agree, but it was I didn't know how to feel at first because she was like, well, all right, I'm gonna sign off on your reenlistment, but you're not gonna have a reenlistment party? And I said, no.
Okay.
And I said, it's not that I don't really want to, but I said, my wife has been at every one of my reenlistments. The fact that she can't be here is that I don't have a need to have one.
Oh, okay.
So she had literally she rushed. I had a enlistment on the Lincoln and she got in an accident on the ice.
Oh, whoa.
And slid in my I had an Explorer, the 2-wheel drive, slid on some black ice and she still got there.
Really?
Still got there.
Wow.
So I was like, can't nobody? I said, nope. I said, my wife ain't here. I don't need one. And she took offense because she wanted me to be like an example to everybody else in the shop. But I was like, the example, I said, do you know the example that y'all made me? I said, I said, these kids they're not stupid. They've seen how I was treated and don't know why I was treated that way. They just know that you guys have something against the IT-1 who hasn't done anything. So they don't want to stay in. So again, I really have no reason to show them, hey, you know what, guys, you should stay in.
Right.
I don't have a reason to tell them that. I told them, hey, you know what? If y'all haven't made y'all mind up yet, get you some shore duty, go to school, or go somewhere, see the world. I said, if y'all single, hey, the world's your oyster. Go find you somewhere overseas and see stuff. They're like, no, we good. So it was a couple that re-enlisted for one more tour to get shore duty, and then they got out, but they got out, got paid. All of them are getting paid well. But she told me, well, you know what, IT-1? She was like, you can invite whoever you want. You can invite Jesus to your re-enlistment. So,
wow.
Yeah. She
so you didn't have the party, and so she didn't allow you to
I didn't have a party. But come to find out, my book was so I was taking notes as I was reading. And my notebook had got taken a couple of times.
Oh man.
The first one I didn't find, but the second one I found.
Man, what a violation.
Yeah. So and it's all good. So when she said that statement, I was like, oh, yeah, figured it was you. So it just solidified. Okay, I know who took it. And like, man. So in my head, I'm thinking, what spirit does she have on her to say Jesus with such hatred? So because at this point in the game, I'm like, I'm good. I mean, I'm angry, but I'm like,
God got me.
Yeah, I'm like, at this point, I'm like, it's all good now. So, so it was that, and then, so once all that got done and I re-enlisted, I had to pick orders, and so another thing came up, and
another thing
came up. So they were trying to, basically, they didn't want. I don't think they wanted me to take any orders. So basically, I just would have had to finish up my time on the boat and then retire.
Wow.
But again, I'm trying to get off the boat fast as I can. And so I called the detailer, and so God was looking out again by the chief that I had found the chief, that particular detailer, easy to talk to. I said, Chief, this is what's going on. I would like to take these orders because I had been upheld, so I was like held on the boat 6 months longer because COVID came out.
Oh, dang.
She said, okay, well, don't worry about it. I see you was upheld, so I'm just going to kick your orders back to your higher tenure date, and you can retire after that. And so you don't need, because normally I would have needed a 1306 to extend. And she was like, nope, you don't need 1306. And I was like, whew, we cool. And I said, you know what, Chief, thank you. I appreciate it. And she said, let me know when you get when it come through, you'll see it in message traffic. And I said, all right, thank you. So my 1306 that disappeared. And I asked the YN2, I said, hey, have you seen my 1306? And he said, no. And I said, you know what? This your first ship. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. So I go sleuthing around and find my 1306. It's down by so we have the NCs, it's like Navy counselors. It's in their office. And I'm like, what is it doing down here? Because it's over a month now. Yeah. I'm like, man. I said, okay, well, let me. So I pull it. I just pull a 1306. And while Reed was in it, and I was like, wow, okay, well, that's some more shade, but whatever. I go to the admin officer and I tell her, well, ma'am, can you pull? I tell her, you can pull my 1306 because I talked to my detailer and I no longer need it. So before I go back up, so the administration office is down on the 4th deck. Before I get back up to my office, my division officer already knows. And yeah, they say, she said, well, why'd you pull your 1306? I said, I don't need it. And she said, why don't you need it? I talked to the detailer. They moved my time. So I don't need the 1306 anymore. They're just going to let me do my 36 months and I'm done. Departmental Master Chief, he was like, he was upset because he said only me and the YN is supposed to be dealing with paperwork. I said, it's my 1306. He said, it doesn't matter. Like, dude. So all these people are hating for whatever reason they have to hate, but it's above normal hate. Like, I didn't do anything for you to hate me.
They're just coming.
So I looked at that as
an attack.
I looked at as that because that's not normal. That's not normal hate. So I did look at it as like some spiritual.
Got you. Okay. So that's a big difference there, right? Yeah. Is being able to recognize.
I looked at it as spiritual because I'm like, I didn't do nothing to y'all. I'm like, man, what do you have? Now, if it's just the color of my skin, I mean, you could just say, hey, I just don't, you know what? I just don't like you. Be a man and say that.
This is some extra.
Yeah, this is extra.
And everyone's following suit.
This is extra hate. This is extra. And so, but everybody beneath me, oh, they cool. They like, yeah, cool. They like, congratulations, man. Hey, man, you get to get off of here. But I was like, wow, that's it was crazy. But then when it all transpired the way it did, I was like, man, God really came through, because if he didn't, it wouldn't have worked out that way. Because things was just the way things fell. It was like, man, a wall, and then God would just knock it down. A wall would come up, God would just knock it down. And this was like, I was shooting emails and yeah.
Well, it sounds like the relationship with God that you established and cultivated is what allowed you to continue to navigate and get through it in a different way. Because at this point, you done been through so much.
Yeah,
I'm about to lose my religion for you, going back in the past. You know, like, no, I'm done. That's it. It's just too much. You know what I'm saying?
But see, I was I was reading too much, and I was trying to I was applying.
Mhm.
I was really trying to apply what I was learning, what I was reading, and I honestly, for me, I think that's the key. When you apply biblical principle, then it allows God to move for you.
Mm.
So
that saying of faith without work is dead. You had to do the work.
Yeah, and the work is not in the sense how we think it is.
Yes.
The work is just applying what you learn and then having faith that
it's going to work out.
That God is going to,
regardless if it is the way that you desire it.
Exactly.
That's his plan.
You're going to get to the end point. You're going to get to the end point where you need to be.
Got you.
And so, yeah, I got orders, and then I was able to retire, and that worked out. But yeah, it's
well. Let's wrap, because I want you to summarize. You know, one of the things that I'd love for you to come back and talk about is, it sounded like, you know, your wife is the one that kind of pulled you guys to God and had you go into church in the very beginning.
Yeah.
But
because she's the one that was actually praying for me
to go,
not to go, but
to find God,
to see God out.
Right.
And I didn't I didn't know that.
You didn't know that.
I didn't know that until later. To matter actually right before we started doing this podcast, when she was like, yeah, I was,
oh, she told you.
Yeah, she was like, I was praying for you. She was like, I'm so glad that you are transforming yourself. And she said, I prayed for you to find God. So and I was like, really? And it's funny because we listened to so Pastor Jerry Flowers. He said the same thing. For the wife, silence is the best weapon. So silence and then prayer.
Okay.
If you, because to yell at your man is kind of like it's being out of. But if you just be quiet and ask God to deal with your husband, you're in order, and then you allow God to make moves on him. So if you want your husband to change, it's like, all right, you know what? I don't like what he's doing, but you know what? Me and God gonna have some time now. And God will move in the man the way he needs to be moved.
So it sounds like for a while she was leading
the
Christian piece in your life, in the family, and now you're able to assume the head of the family in the order that the Bible says it should be in, and you're just watching and flourishing, and then able to go back and reflect and see how God was moving and how you used to deal with things and how you deal with things now. That's pretty powerful.
Well,
man, I really appreciate your story. You know, we're here with Guyland, and he's sharing his testimony with us. And this is just his naval career, and he could go so much more on that. There's so much to unpack, but I think it really encapsulates your growth and your relationship with God, your family's relationship with God, and just how you navigated the trials and tribulations. And
because we still ongoing. I'm still trying to get my kids on the right path, but again, I only can do what I can do, and then the rest I have to pray and leave it up to God to do the rest.
Well, you know, they say you got to put the mask on yourself before you got to put on someone else.
Exactly. So, and that was a true statement. So you have to, faith goes a long way. Faith goes a long way.
So I'm going to challenge the audience. And in the very beginning, we had 3 were important. And did you see those through the conversation? Have goals and move toward them. How did you see that? Where Guyland had goals? How did you see how those goals got modified or changed based on situations in his life? Where did you see where he didn't have to compromise his values? And he was stoic throughout, right? Could get frustrated, but ultimately that value, that pact that he made with his brother, that, hey, we're going to take care of family. That's what we're going to do. We're going to take care of these kids. That helped him to swallow it up, be a man, take responsibility, even though it hurt. And he wanted to speak out and say some things and maybe react in different ways that we often say, couldn't have been me, done this and I'd have done that. That's what allowed him to do that. So how having those values and not compromising those values is so strong. And then the ultimate to me, which is find someone to build with. Talking earlier with Andre, and we were talking about finding someone who's equally yoked and what that means, the yin to your yang, someone that's going to be supportive of you and able to carry the ball when you're not able to carry the ball. She's making moves when you don't even know. And that move was praying for you, which was the biggest thing that she can do. And then you find out now, and all these things move forward.
Because it really worked out. Because even after retirement, the job I have now was but God.
Mm-hmm.
It was because I know a lot of it is about who you know, but
you can't do it unless you have all these
pieces were put into it to where, like I've had a little experience doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like the job was, I don't want to say tailored for me, but it
sounds like it. That's what God's plan.
Yeah,
it was tailored for you.
But
there,
right? So, and so I'm blessed. Because for a long time I was like, man, it's when you struggle for a long time and then you finally be like, well, man, this, life is good. You really do have to just be thankful.
So as we close, I want you to leave primarily or in particular young men, maybe in their late teens, early 20s, their 30s that are trying to figure out, find their way. What words of advice do you have for them if they are experiencing anything along this timeline of emotions and experiences that they may find themselves in that may be similar? What advice do you have for them?
Man, I think if I would have started reading earlier, I think that would have stopped some of the pitfalls I had. So I would definitely start reading the Bible. And if you can find someone else or find someone you can have talks with about it. Mm-hmm. So like small study groups, mm-hmm. even if it's just you and one other person and just back and forth. Just what you think about it or what you got from it will go a long way. And then apply what you read. Mm. And I think that's the biggest.
Apply what you read.
Because when you apply what you read, then that allows God to move for you. That allows God to say, okay, well, he can send angels to do stuff for you, whether it's for protection or to move someone out the way mm-hmm. for you to get to the open door or close a door that could be dangerous for you. Mm-hmm. But biblical principle is probably the most important thing that us as men in general we need to start doing. If we can do that, I think women will come alongside men and we can try to find some kind of answers and
look at
the state.
He's prepping a future show. We definitely gonna get into that. I'm gonna cut you off before you go too far on that. You're like, what you talking about? Like, hey, in context. But that's big. So there are a lot of tools that are set forth in front of us, and oftentimes that tool, that book, right? That person is there, and folks will never use the tool.
Yeah.
Or they'll read it, but they'll never apply it. They'll never
Yeah.
try it. Just try it. Try God. You hear that? Just try God. Just try him. Well, one thing I'll say too is for those that don't know, we're in the age of digital, so you can access the Bible online. And if you were growing up with thou and thus, and this is, and you just can't understand that, there are lots of different versions of the Bible. We were using the New Living Translation today, which kind of takes those things out but keeps the core message intact. So I know that was a frustration for me reading the Bible when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I just, at some point, I'm like, man, I'm so confused at what I'm reading. I'm just going to put it aside. So,
but you can do audio book now.
Yep, you can do audio.
And one thing that I would suggest is something we do every night is we play. We just have the Bible being read at night.
Oh, okay.
And so subconsciously you absorb everything you see on TV. So we have that going. So you had God's word absorbing subconsciously. That helps. So one's gonna help give you peace at night and protection while you sleep. So if anybody is suffering with insomnia or night terrors, or what do they call that when your muscles
like restless leg syndrome?
Yeah, restless leg syndrome. I do believe that's good to do.
That's a big one. It makes sense. People say, hey, play classical music to the baby when it's in the womb. And, folks are falling asleep to the TV and horror movies and crazy stuff.
Exactly. Because if I would have known, if I would have been where I'm at before my kids were born, I would have had the word on the TV then. So they could have been getting it in the womb and we could have been getting it early.
Yeah.
So
that's a simple thing you can do, right? You can do that tonight. So there's your challenge. We'll end it here. We are moving in on 2 hours. So, this was a good one to pack. I appreciate you telling your story, and just that little snippet of your story. It takes a lot to do that and be vulnerable in that way. But we're going to end it here. This is Guyland. This was his testimony. And for Guyland Marwan, this is Guided